Painkiller Ghosts, Chapter 20. It still feels good. She goes on. My very first memory is having 3 pennies in the right pocket of my favorite corduroy pants. I rubbed those 3 copper coins together until they got worn down. It's funny, I don't remember if I found those or if someone gave them to me. She stops and sneezes, rubs her nose, blinks her eyes, and goes on. Maybe I stole them. Maybe I stole those 3 pennies. I mean, I'm a virgin, not an angel. But I had those 3 pennies in my pocket, and I was rubbing them together hard and with my right hand. It's funny, memory, because sometimes you remember something one way that you know it couldn't have been so. See, I was so young that no way I'd be able to maneuver those coins around themselves, especially in little pockets with one hand. My foster father from the time had the other hand, my left one. I bet I was just holding them close. In my fist, those 3 pennies. He was holding my other hand, and that was okay with me. But as I remember, they were all okay with me. Just okay, my foster fathers. But also, as I know, memories aren't always right. She stops for no reason, stares out the window towards the dark houses across the street, notices that no cars are passing by, no kids are outside playing, no leaf blowers are blowing, and no long absent parents are looking for her. She goes on. So, my first thought, my first memory I should say, is standing there with those coins in my right hand and a man's hand holding my left hand. And it's chilly. It's a little later in the year than it is now, and we're looking down at a grave. The image is hazy, sure, a bit like junior year of high school. It's hazy, but it's still there. I know I was looking down at the grave of a child. You could just tell. Children's headstones just have a different feel than the others, a glow. And it's not just the lambs carved into the white marble or the naked smiling angels. There's just a difference to the feel. So I know that was what I was seeing, and I know who the child was. It was his. It was his daughter. And I knew that the reason he had me as a foster child was because he wanted a child of his own, but he didn't want me, or any other foster kid for that matter. He wanted a child of his own, and no other child would bring her back. The first thing, the graveyard, the coins, my left hand being held by his right hand, the real flowers dying on the graves around us, the leaves that needed to be raked, and me there as a substitute. I felt for the first time what I would later know to be inadequacy. And some might say that feeling stuck around for a while, a very long while even. And I might be one of those that said that. No name smiles, so does Chastity. They make brief eye contact. And she continues. So, there I was, rubbing those pennies together, all of a sudden feeling like, I don't know, like a burden. And I remember pulling those 3 pennies out of my pocket and throwing one as hard as I could away from me one direction, and then another the other direction, and then eating the last penny. I just put it in my mouth and swallowed it. And I remember that it did have a taste. A metallic, dirty taste. A warm, metallic taste. And I stuck it in my mouth and swallowed right after I tossed the other coins in opposite directions. And then I gagged, but I got the coin down in my stomach. Later. A couple years, I guess, but I can't be sure. And neither can anyone else I know. But later I drew a picture. A stick figure picture, and it was of me with my arms spread out and 2 pennies floating away from my somewhat open palms, and my tongue was stuck out, and I had a penny on my tongue, and there were lumps that were supposed to be headstones, but there was no father in the picture, no foster parent. I was there alone among the stones, the graves, and about to choke in the picture. But I kept drawing that for years. I remember later on in a different home, a different city, I took a red crayon, newly sharpened, and I drew the man back into the picture. I drew him back in. He was in red, and I was in brown, but I drew him in, and then with the same crown, I drew a red smile over my brown face. And I remember that then I felt happy. I remember that all of a sudden it felt so good. It felt good, so good. And it still feels good. I don't need them. I don't need them, not now. She's silent for a long time. So is the man across the room for her. He's there leaning against the wall, feeling excited, looking at the girl across the room from him, the one who's a virgin, not an angel, the one who used the red crown. He says something to her, one of the last things he'll say to her, and he says, I want you to remember, hiding girl. I want you to know what it's like for me. I can't feel like me in this world. Not anymore. You just seem so free to me. I just can't feel like me anymore. Brief eye contact. She nods. They look away from each other. This is the last time we will look into her past. Now that she's decided that she doesn't need to have one and that feels good. It feels so good. That was then, and this is the end of then. Time is outside, walking down the street in his bare feet. His camera, as always, is with him. The silence in this part of the neighborhood calms him. He's thinking about Mama. He's thinking about Maria. He's thinking about the dog they used to have, the one that died, but is still there 3 paces behind him. And he's thinking about how many exposures he has in his camera, about how he loves this time of the year so much. This is the last time we'll see in the times past. There is no longer any past for time. There is no longer any past for chastity. And it feels good to them. It already feels good.